Hare Krishna, welcome all devotees. Such a wonderful privilege to continue on with this Bond of Love interview series, share this time together. So welcome to our bi-monthly Bond of Love interview series, this amazing opportunity to hear from Srila Prabhupada's daughters directly. This book, if you don't yet have it, it is so spiritually nourishing. And I highly recommend that each of you secure a copy for your home, and you can start a reading group with your friends and just let the words uplift you. Each of the interviews that we've had so far has been unique and uplifting, and you can always go back and hear them again and again and again, the Nectarian interviews at any time. And today we are so fortunate to have Sarvamangala Devi Dasi with us. I was speaking to a friend the other day about Sarva, and the only words that I could think to share were, to know her is to love her. She's the most welcoming and joyous spirit. She embodies the principles of simple living and high thinking. And as I was just reading her bio, one of the highlights of her gem-filled biography is that Sarvamangala has written and directed plays as well as comic reviews for devotees. So be sure to have some comedic aspects today. And being in her presence, the ancient and sometimes esoteric teachings become animated, clear, and alive. She embodies the Vaishnava qualities. She joined the movement in 1971 and has been in steady service ever since. So welcome all. Hare Krishna, Sarvamangala, thank you so much for being with us today. Please accept my most loving respects. Jaya Srila Prabhupada. I thought we could start today just hearing a little bit of what you've written in the book, and then we'll get to hear from you. So one of our dear friends, Tiffany, pulled this quote out, and it's so beautiful. This is from Bond of Love, Srila Prabhupada and his daughters, written by Sarvamangala. When Prabhupada installed Radha Gokulananda, I was standing behind him, and as he shimmered the peacock fan from side to side while he offered it to the deities, I was in total wonder. I thought, oh, this must be how the peacock dances. It felt real. It reminded me of Krishna's pastime, and it felt like Prabhupada was caressing Krishna. So Sarvamangala, would you share with us how your personal interactions with Srila Prabhupada affected you, and how that experience, Prabhupada's presence, stays with you and affects how you see the world and interact with the world? Sarva, can you hear me?
Hello?
Hare Krishna.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. And I'm wondering if you can share with us how your personal interactions with Srila Prabhupada affected you, and how that experience of Prabhupada's presence in your life changes how you see the world around you.
Yeah, on the something with the mic, but Yeah, of course. The personal reaction, personal interactions with Srila Prabhupada affected our whole existence. And that thing is that if you meet other people, you can introduce Srila Prabhupada to them, and they also experience an interaction. So that's Srila Prabhupada's amazing potency. And there's nothing more exciting than seeing other people get connected. But on a personal level, it's a experience, connection and separation at the same time. And sometimes that's quite confronting. That you have that desire to be in Prabhupada's personal presence, and sometimes it's very strong that you can feel Prabhupada's personal presence just by him always, that you're still in harm, that you're trying and you have to follow. It's a relationship completely different from anything in the material world. That Prabhupada's presence is there in so many ways. In his book, Purport, when you might really to just hear the words that you do read, and the memories, obviously. You've asked about personal interactions. I did have some friends who are Prabhupada's disciples who never met him personally, and you can really see how strong their connection is as well. So there's many ways. But I did see Srila Prabhupada, I probably the most in Bombay. It's up my life, and it gave me a sense of real purpose in the relationship with Srila Prabhupada. It gave me a sense that I could be a servant, because that's the core of our relationship. That he's the perfect example of a servant. And I asked him a question in a darshan he had in the evening in Bombay. He used to have guests come, and I used to go up there, and I could, and just stand there in case Prabhupada wanted anything. And sometimes he'd give an instruction, close the blinds or give guests prasadam. And it went deep in my heart, that feeling. So at that time I was thinking personal servant, like the men, they got to massage Prabhupada, and I was hoping in my next life maybe I'll be able to be a personal servant of Srila Prabhupada's. But just now I'm thinking personal servant, it has another aspect also, that it's all personal. It's all personal. Whatever, I don't have to wait till my next life till I'm in a man's body to be a servant, because it's all personal. You get to introduce Prabhupada to other people, and then they kind of fall in love with him too from reading his books. And, we do some reading line with people who are more new to Krishna consciousness, but then they come alive, and that you see that they're not just becoming devotees, they are devotees. And slowly, that you see this magic process happening where they're hearing Srila Prabhupada in his books, and they're getting a relationship too.
Yeah, that's been a big question. Is
the personal, but the personal experiences. I like the way Sham explained it once. He said, "We all just fell in love with Prabhupada." And I think that kind of sums it up, that it is a bond of love. It is a bond of love. Some confidence when you're not fulfilling the bond by being as good a follower as you like to be. And then you just remember that there's a transcendental binding, binding. And then there's your god sister brothers as well, who are in the picture. It's not just you and Srila Prabhupada. And that brings, like Prabhupada said, if you have a bundle of sticks, it's harder to break than just individual.
Yeah. That strength of unity and diversity.
I'm just seeing this question about the next generation who did not have the opportunity to be in his presence. Yeah, I think I've been talking about that a little bit. It's the biggest treat, really. I think it's the most exciting thing to, no matter how you feel yourself that day, if someone comes around, we have sometimes devotees come around and have prasadam, and their enthusiasm and their sparkle of entering into this relationship with the pure devotee and all that he's given us. And also they're meeting other devotees, they're listening to class, and other devotees are giving them their flavor of their relationship with Prabhupada and their way of being in Krishna consciousness, as an individual. So all that amazing variegedness and uniqueness of everyone they meet is giving them another flavor of the relationship with the spiritual master, with the Acharya.
So you mentioned being in the mood of a servant. I'm wondering, when life is so difficult in the material world, how do you
there's no material obstacle to devotional service. Somehow it's happening. How do I remain in the mood of servant? Well, I don't, unfortunately. But somehow or another, because of the bond, you get brought back into a better consciousness. But because it's a difficult world, there's all the more reason to take shelter. It's the only shelter. I mean, you read when you've already got an awareness, usually. Well, I was one of those people who was materially kind of good and just really looking for meaning. And so you already had an experience that the material world is not full of happiness. But, when you read Prabhupada's books, you really understand how there's no way you can have a peaceful life. And it's just a place of happiness and distress. Happiness and distress. Yeah.
We're always experiencing some happiness and distress in this material world. Yesterday when we were talking, you mentioned
I
that,
think preaching for me is the thing that gives me the most excitement,
you mentioned
and lifts
that
me up. Because even if you're not, you know, always in a great consciousness to transmit anything or be an instrument, still meeting the newer devotees and seeing them advance and seeing their enthusiasm. You know, sometimes they're really that you're sharing Krishna consciousness with them, and I always tell them just as much, if not more, because their enthusiasm lights you up too. So it's always reciprocal. It's always personal. So this question about being open-minded and meeting people where they're at. Yes, Prabhupada. He is the external manifestation of the spiritual master, the Acharya. So he's just totally empowered. I mean, he can give a lecture and everyone in the room has the experience of being with Srila Prabhupada in a unique way. Just thinking at your little cap, well, not one cap. It's not that just one cap fits all, isn't it? You know, everyone's got that unique experience. And Srila Prabhupada, you know what, you see the years of Prabhupada arriving at the airport, and everyone's experiencing the individual and enlightenment and being lit up by Srila Prabhupada's presence, and then everybody's doing different things, and some like Sitala, she always felt like you know, being at the back, you know, not putting herself forward in front of Prabhupada, and I was always trying to get into Prabhupada's quarters, any excuse, you know. And Prabhupada reciprocate with all of us, and with guests as well. Srila Prabhupada, it was an amazing thing. Giriraj Maharaj, me in Bombay, that Prabhupada said, we're not beggars going out to meet people, we're going to give. And if we have the right mood of giving, then they'll want to receive. So Prabhupada's mood was so giving, and people had a sense that he was the ever well-wisher. I think all in their individual ways, because Srila Prabhupada, he saw the soul. He didn't just see the body. So when he looked at you, you felt actually had an experience of spiritual being. I think that's what the ecstasy was about. It was that suddenly in Prabhupada's presence, you're feeling your spiritual being in some respect. And I don't think that was just the so-called devotees, because, you know, in Bombay we had very, very successful businessmen, big teas, as they call them. And they were very humble in front of Srila Prabhupada, because, you know, they could experience that he was 100% surrendered to Krishna, and they could feel that. So there was always that awe and reverence, I think. Mostly, I mean, you got the odd person that, you know, and ask some totally irrelevant question. And then Prabhupada, like one time this man was saying, Swamiji, I can't remember exactly what it was, but he was going on a bit, and Prabhupada said, oh yes, he was asking Prabhupada for his mercy or blessings, something like that.
Yeah.
And Srila Prabhupada said, if you want my blessings, help take away this headache. I'm running this big society, and and he really got on the man's case to actually do things. So it was individual how he dealt with people. Always I don't think he had to adjust. I think he was just seeing the person as a spirit soul, part and parcel of Krishna, and somehow he, so he was always tuned in. Krishna was always tuning him in.
Tuned in.
In that discrimination between a male body, because the spirit soul is not male or female. I mean, maybe he dealt differently according to the personality, and maybe he kinder to the women. I don't know. I always felt he was very, very kind to us. But sometimes with people who were more intimate, male or female, he might have given them a dose of medicine they need. But I never felt that there was. I never even it that difference in God's attitude to us. He gave us all equal opportunity to serve. He still is, how we're still engaged. He engaged us. Engaging someone means that you know what they can do, what they should do. I got a letter from Srila Prabhupada once. Right at the beginning of entering into Krishna consciousness, and he said something I totally didn't relate to. I thought he's just being kind, and because I had written him the prayer, the prayer that we say to the spiritual master, I had written it. I was brand new, and I had written the prayer in a letter to Prabhupada, and I'd written it very, very carefully, and he acknowledged that. He said it's nicely written and correctly spelled, and then he said, and I'm not saying this to put myself up. He said it shows very intelligent and can use your talent and intelligence in serving Krishna. And all those years, I never ever that was true, that I was intelligent. I was such an idiot, and he was being so kind. And then the other day, I just thought, we've all got intelligence. Everyone has intelligence, but it depends how you use it, whether it's really a decent intelligence or not. And then I suddenly realized just the other day that, when you're engaging in service and Prabhupada is actually engaging you, then somehow, it never really struck me before that the link in Prabhupada saying that, it was a gift saying, well, you have to use everything. And if you just write yourself out of the script by thinking, oh, I'm a woman, so I'm less intelligent, that's just a false identification. Because everything we have can be in Krishna's service. So And there's different kinds of intelligence also, you know. People are all different mind, intelligence, propensity, way of serving and being. And my favorite service with Srila Prabhupada was somehow just to be a kind of dumb waiter, you know. I don't know if you ever have that expression in America, but there's a device that people have in restaurants where if they have to send something up to the door or down, there's a kind of that takes the food, and it's called a dumb waiter.
Yeah.
And it struck me, you know, when I used to be in Prabhupada's room, you know, I wasn't a significant devotee. I was a really young devotee. And I wasn't having lots of conversations with Srila Prabhupada, like the ladies who'd been around longer than me or cooking for Prabhupada every day. But I did used to like to bring things up to Prabhupada's rooms that I knew they needed. So I knew they needed certain things in the morning, so I'd bring that up, and then I knew they needed the midnight, and I'd bring that up. I knew they needed vegetables, so you know, I always wanted to try to get Prabhupada's personal association, and somehow that worked. And then I got some service to cut his fruit up, and then I got some service to give Prabhupada his fruit in the afternoon, and then I got to do some other really personal things. Sometimes a servant didn't turn up, so I got to do the things he did because I knew what he did. So in a way, it was a revelation what your service was.
Discover with time.
You had a desire, and Krishna reciprocated, didn't you? And somehow or another, you got to do it. I think that's the ongoing thing, you know, because it's, you know, Prabhupada's present and Krishna's present, and they know everything. You know, Prabhupada knows us. I'm not saying that Prabhupada's Krishna, he wouldn't like that. He's all pervading. Once sometimes asked Prabhupada if he knew everything, and he said, I know what Krishna wants me to know.
I know what Krishna
wants. I think you know what your service is because Krishna's giving it you, and you get an awareness. This is happening because that's Krishna's arrangement. I loved being in Prabhupada's quarters. I loved that we got to clean his room. I loved that we could make flower vases for him, and he told us not to just throw good flowers out and make new vases. So that gave me. I came back from India. I came back, I thought, temporarily, just for a little while, but after 6 days, we got the news that Prabhupada had left, which was devastating. And it's not that you just shift immediately into thinking, oh, appearance and disappearance are exactly the same. You know, it was, that's quite a lofty realization. So after a little time, I got to serve in Srila Prabhupada at the Manor. And then I remembered all the things the Prabhupada had a desk and how he had it. I remember him saying not to throw away the dead flowers. And so that meant you had to, get rid of the dead ones and not to waste things. And we knew how Prabhupada's desk was. We knew we didn't just walk in Prabhupada's room like it was any room. So I felt that the etiquette really is not just some rule or regulation. And I've been writing a little handbook, Prabhupada's rooms at the manor. But it's understanding that he is personally present in it. And Prabhupada wants to give an example that if you love someone and you see their coat hanging up, you immediately think you love. So it's a bit like that. You go in Prabhupada's rooms, you see the things he used. You know that he walked there. You see, you remember his pastimes there. So many ways. And there's a duty there. We're not doing it. So duty is a bona fide way of us recognizing Prabhupada's presence and serving the deity. So it means you don't talk loud and you don't do things you would do in front of Srila when he was his physical presence was manifested when we met him. So I think that was a very thing. It's not like a Niyamagraha thing, etiquette. Here's the etiquette book and what you have to do and what you don't have to do. At the core of it, it's all personal, always. And you knock on the door. And then I always feel like you wait a split second for a sense of permission to. And so that it's always there. Etiquette is just a component of love. The presence of the most beloved person who sets you free from materialism. So it's not just a ritual that you bow down. You want to bow down and thank him, and that's such a mixture of wanting to be excused for not being what the good servant, but also understanding Prabhupada's merciful that he accepted us. And I think that's for everybody when they say Prabhupada's pranams. That they know, that he's a representative of Lord Chaitanya, and he's helping us become free from him. From Stella Herzig. That's lovely. Anyway, yeah, protocols. I'm a detailed person, because I've been engaged a lot as a pujari, and I've got that kind of mind that's got too much going on. So I'm writing a handbook so that protocols are there for the future. I think it's very important that people do have information of how to write in Srila Prabhupada's rooms and to be saying Prabhupada's pranams before they have kirtan, and that it's not just straight in, here doing the kirtan, that we always remember that we're servants of the servant, and he's the ultimate master, he's the acharya. The protocols are important, but Prabhupada instructed us with love and compassion, so it's not just a rule book that you bang people over the head with. It also has to be given with care and love and respect. So, yes, I think protocol and love, protocols, isn't it?
Formula for love.
Protocol. It's just really about the whole about personal. You know, it's a big battle against personalism in the material. So in relationship, consider it when you're serving someone. You have to think of how they are, what they like, what they do, who they are. So that it's like that with the spiritual master. But also you can't have a whole load of speculation going on like either. So there's a duty there to pass on information. And that's all there in, you know, Bhagavad Gita, you know, how to relate with the Lord and with the pure devotee. That's my bottom line about protocol. It's really important. I much prefer the word, you know, in exchange, loving exchange, seeing things as part of your loving exchange. I kind of, I've got to think about me and Margaret that the main reason Prabhupada said we shouldn't think we follow the rules and regulations, but it also not just for the sake of following them. It's because it's a loving exchange, service. You know, we're not like butlers in an old English mansion or something where, you know, everything's yes, my lord, no, my lord, and so you get your wages. Not fruitive. It's intimate. It's intimate. And my experience is that there are protocols, like, you know, ladies didn't massage Srila Prabhupada's body. But you can't have a hard line on in that way, because what I came to understand is that you can't slip intimacy. And I found that that's very freeing, that transcendental relationship, there's no obstacle. And just because maybe the men was sometimes around Prabhupada's body more, but still there were women on morning walks. There were women doing things all the time. Prabhupada cooking for him. I was a brand new little thing in Bombay, and I got to give Prabhupada breakfast. And you know, and he called me in when he liked something. He rang the bell, and like, you know, I experienced, but because I had the desire somehow to be near him, Krishna let that happen, and Prabhupada permitted it. And, you know, I think the price of intimacy is your desire. Nobody gives it you. You know, you don't have to be. You don't need someone else to liberate you. You don't need that. It's a transcendental relationship, and there's no obstacle to it. Yeah, I like that. It came to me one day when I was writing about Srila Prabhupada. I thought, yeah, you can legislate intimacy. Even people, you know, may say, this is what this kind of body should do, and this is what that kind of body should do. You know that innately. If you feel respect for Srila Prabhupada, you know, I wouldn't go home and be chaste or something like that. And everybody should be chaste. Men should be chaste. Women should be chaste. Chaste to the order as the master, chaste to the desire of the master, chaste to the presence. It's there's nothing in the way of being in relationship.
Price of intimacy is desire. That's so powerful. So if there's any questions, viewers, please do type them in and we'll post them for Srila to respond
I
to.
hesitate to say, but I will. Saying it to back up what I just said about intimacy. There's all kinds of intimacy. There's intimacy. How come we can feel intimacy with Krishna while we're in this material body? Because when we chant his name, we feel his presence, and that's what once said. Prabhupada was on a walk in Bombay, and that devotee, Mahamsa, and he was a new devotee at that time. And he was a lovely devotee, and this I'm sure. And Prabhupada was asking everybody, how do you know Krishna's God? And people were saying all different things from Prabhupada's books. And then but when you hear,
I think we've lost you for a moment. Hare Krishna, Sarvamangala Devi Dasi, are you still there? I've been thoroughly enjoying every word. So we have a comment from the Facebook. I always admired your great optimism, enthusiasm, and eagerness for service and association. Now you're always so kind and nice to everyone. I completely agree. I met Sarvamangala Devi Dasi when I was visiting Australia, where she's now living, and she was so friendly. And that's why, as I mentioned in the beginning, I said to know her is to love her. That eager mood to serve is so clear and so uplifting and so inspiring. Another comment, I remember you from Soho in 1984. It's called Krishna Priyadam, and married Apraya Prabhu. Well, Sarva's trying to get reconnected. Maybe I'll read a bit more from her entry in Bond of Love. Let's see. I had the page marked before, but now I've lost it. Find it momentarily. In transcendental relationship, there is no obstacle. Yes. However, in the material realm, we have some obstacles. Technology. Hopefully, Sarvamangala will come back on in a moment. Here we are. Even her bio here in the book is so very sweet. It says, Sarvamangala Devi Dasi first saw Srila Prabhupada sometime in 1971 when Syamasundara brought her to the Buri Place temple. But Sarva doesn't like to recall that time. Oh, are you back?
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know what happened.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
See, we did have some intimacy even though we couldn't hear each other.
Hare Krishna. Pranams.
Sorry.
So we had a question pop up of your favorite memory of Srila Prabhupada. Would you share with us?
Well, I don't know if you just heard the last thing about the... Well, okay, I already said that. You may not have heard it about getting to Prabhupada Garland. Yeah, okay.
Please tell us.
There's so many things. I have one. I have two. One is when Prabhupada was in Bombay. It's a very simple thing. That's what I mean about intimacy. If you woke up in the night, you could look out of your window and see Prabhupada's light on and know that he was translating the book for us. And you could feel that. It's just that feeling so sheltered and safe that Prabhupada was there, but that's what he was doing. And I used to go out and chant in the garden and look up at Prabhupada's light, chanting my rounds early. I used to get up really early to chant because it took me so long. And then looking up at Prabhupada's light and just being down in the garden and smelling the night blooming jasmine and Prabhupada's, seeing Prabhupada's light on. That was very intimate, actually. And then that was one of the little things I used to do when I be in Prabhupada's quarters. It's not that you'd go in always there. But I put the Night Queen on his pillow, and then I'd think about it when I went to bed, wondering if Prabhupada liked having that beautiful scent. And then it's just, there's so many things to do for someone that you love and who loves you so much that they pick you up. And the other thing that I'm always on about is when Prabhupada installed Radha Gokulananda, and he invited us all in the Deity room. And well, before he invited us in the Deity room, I was standing behind him, watching him do the arti, so elegant and personal. The way Prabhupada offered the arti and his movements. You know how it says in the Gita how all his the pure devotee, all his characteristics are sublime, and how he walks and how he talks. So it was like a poetry in motion. There used to be a song called that in the 60s, and that occurred, poetry in motion, the way he moved. And so everything about how Prabhupada moved was actually ecstatic, because it was everything in his every characteristic was an offering to Krishna, and you became aware of that. So it was like you were in the spiritual world. Actually, I think everyone had an experience that the spiritual world right then and there. It wasn't just somewhere you're going to go to, but being in the deity room, the deities appearing, the holy name in the kirtan, and the acharya, and all the assembled devotees, and Prabhupada jumping up and down, and quite quickly, with his arms in the air, and we're all jumping up and down, and then the holy name, resounding. And I remember it wasn't even a thought; it was like an experience of this is the spiritual world. This is spiritual. And that's what Prabhupada did. He brought it. He carried. It wasn't just the light of knowledge. It was the experience. The experience of knowledge. The experience of being in. Well, again, people experience in different ways because of their abilities and their nature. Some people have such wonderful sadhana, that other people are weaker in some ways, stronger in other ways. But Prabhupada allowed us somehow to have an experience of Krishna through his instructions, through the holy name, through his presence, through serving the deities, through book distribution, all however he engaged you. That was his presence, that he's still engaging us, and it's so encouraging. It's so encouraging. And in Nectar Instruction, how Prabhupada gives a purport on the verse that enthusiasm, endeavoring with confidence. And he explains it's confidence in Krishna. Mm-hmm. So even when we don't feel very confident or we feel lacking, still, we have to be confident that Krishna's for us. He wants us back, and Prabhupada's for us. He's engaging us, and he's reaching. He wants us to reach out and engage other people so they can have that experience, not just so you can say, okay, you're a new devotee, these are the do's and don'ts and all that. You have to carry on that mercy mood, that, mercy. I've been given this chance.
And you've done a lot of home programs with finding that balance. Anything to share about that over the years?
Done a lot of what? I didn't hear that.
Home programs.
Oh, home. Did you say home programs?
Yes, home programs.
Oh, yes.
Need tips for us how to...
It's nice. It's nice. It's nice to go. It's another intimate thing that you can go in. You can go into someone's home, or you can invite them into your home, and that's a way of meeting them where they're at, and that's great. You don't go, like if you go to someone's house, you don't start telling them how they should arrange their furniture or what they should do. You're meeting them in their space and getting a sense of who they are and treading carefully, really, but not so careful that you can't be spontaneous. But Krishna. I think that's a very exciting thing, because somehow, any knowledge or understanding comes from Krishna in the heart. So if you just kind of back off from thinking you know it all, then you kind of leave a space for Krishna to guide you how to meet this person. Not that you're thinking that. You're not thinking, okay, Krishna, tell me what to do. It's not like you're being, expecting Krishna to be your servant, but Krishna wants them back. Otherwise, why did you happen to meet them?
Mm.
So he's got the plan. And then if you go in their home, you just be with people, I think. And be with people. I'm not an expert, but, like whatever you've got, you can use it, I always say my husband and I tend to be a bit over-friendly, so you can dovetail it. And sometimes that means I've not had great boundaries, and then I've had to learn a lesson, So learning, let's keep going. I think people aren't stupid, if they tell, if you're lording it over them, or you want to just serve and help them. Krishna's the one who's doing it all. You're just trying to be an instrument. And I think because that's very enjoyable, and you go for it. You don't really know what's going to happen when you meet someone. That's quite exciting, I think. Just think of the risks, Prabhupada, the way he went to America. It's amazing. So I guess every time you meet someone, you're in nowhere land, really. But the fact that Krishna arranged it, that you meet someone, then you're getting a chance to serve.
What a wonderful thing to remember. It ties into one more question that I had, which is, what about your interactions with Srila Prabhupada convinced you to dedicate your life to him, even now after so many years?
Because I was lost. Prabhupada picked me up. I read that book a lot of people read, Be Here Now.
Mm-hmm.
When I was so bored and fed up with what I was doing. And I prayed. In the book, he says, if you want a spiritual teacher, you should pray to him to come. Mm. So I did that. And then a week later, I was somehow saved from the material life and met Syamasundara, and he took me to the temple, and Prabhupada was there. And, then my life changed in a moment, in a split second, that I saw Syamasundara. He said I was crying, but I think it was because it was cathartic that at that moment my whole life, my existence changed. Mm. So just coming into contact with the pure devotee, just being picked up, knowing that you've been picked up, and life will never be the same again. Okay.
Well, thank you so
much. Hope I can stay in service.
So wonderful to hear from you. I'm very grateful, and I know that everyone listening in is very grateful to hear these words from you of inspiration and reminders.
I'm grateful for the opportunity, because I was a bit scared.
Well, I know that you have a busy day of service ahead, so if there's one last story that you'd like to share, we'd be happy to hear.
Well, I saw a few messages coming up from God sisters, and I think that's so Prabhupada gave us that family of loving devotees and help each other, There's a message here on my screen from Guru Charana Padma, is my very dear sister, and we all encourage each other. And so that love Prabhupada gave us is, it's not just some sentimental thing. It's deep as the ocean, and he's given it to everyone. And so there's that rasa there between people. And there's a newish devotee. I mean, she's been around a while, but she's just kind of coming to, she's a yoga teacher here in Sydney. She's telling people about Krishna consciousness and classes. And she's, that sparkle, not just from older devotees, but from people who are embarking on their preaching and their sharing of Krishna consciousness, and just the association of devotees. There's respect and etiquette, but it's not a hard and fast hierarchy. We're all enlivening each other, new, old, whatever. And that's what Prabhupada's given us, a society, not a bureaucracy. He's given us a society for being together and helping each other, lifting each other up, encouraging each other. And and Prabhupada's presence is in that. It's like a thread he's woven, and we're all in that tapestry of the society, and there's a place for everybody. So I think that's something really important.
Definitely.
That we can share together. And I'm so happy you've been so kind. I was so spaced out about what day it was and what time it was, and yet everyone's so sweet and loving and not judgmental. It's very nice. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sarvamangala Devi Dasi. Thank you, each of you, for sharing. And I could not more highly encourage that we all get this book into our homes and spread it widely.
Yes, yeah. All the new girls I know really, they want it.
Jai.
Hare
Krishna, Dhanava Pranams.
It's such a good crew there. It's amazing. Hare Krishna did a great job.